Hi everyone, and welcome to eBay for Business Live. We're so excited to be broadcasting from the first day of eBay Open 2018. Woohoo! I'm Audrey Tracy, Social Media Manager for eBay for Business. In this broadcast, we're talking about how to make the leap, how to take your part-time selling to a full-time income. We've got a couple of sellers with us. We're going to talk about that. I just wanted to mention that this is broadcasting live on our Facebook page, eBay for Business, as well as our YouTube channel. Let me give you that URL. It's youtube.com/sellingonebayus. youtube.com/sellingonebayus. So if you didn't catch it here, share it with your friends. Go back and watch it afterwards. Okay. Today we have three sellers who have done the leap. They've made the leap from part-time to full-time selling. All three have grown all three used to have corporate jobs. They grew their eBay business to the point where they could quit their jobs, and now they're selling full-time. So let's go around the table and have you introduce yourselves. I'll start with Chris.
What's going on, guys? My name is Chris Lynn. I'm Daily Refinement is the name of my store and on my social media. And I got started on eBay a long time ago. Actually, eBay was my first job. 15 years ago. So right out of college, it was awesome. And I got back into eBay when Pokemon Go came out, and it was just crazy. Everyone was outside, and then all my old Pokemon stuff was worth money, and it got me back into the game, so super happy.
Excellent. Teresa?
I'm Teresa Cox, and I am Club Red 97 on eBay and Numbers Geek on Instagram and Twitter. I started selling in 1997, and I started selling red things because I love the color red, and I found out a lot of other people did. And so as most sellers do, I transitioned into selling a lot more things that were profitable. And I left my full-time. I did business and finance in higher ed for 30 years, and I left that 2.5 years ago. And eBay is my full-time income now.
Hello everyone, my name is Monica Gamboa, and I am the Posh Hanger on Instagram and on eBay. And I have been selling on eBay almost when it first started, back when we used to get checks. And we had no pictures, if you guys
Raise your hand if you remember that.
But it was just a hobby. I was in banking for almost 17 years. I thought that was going to be my career, my life. I was working at Wells Fargo. I was about to get that Wells Fargo stagecoach tattooed on my... But what happened was, in a haste and in a plot twist, I, without a plan, just quit. So I wouldn't say that my transition was a leap. It was more of a stumble and a face plant. It's definitely more of what not to do, but because I had done it as a hobby, I thought, wow, I wonder if I could do that. So I sold my bank clothes that I didn't want to look at anymore. And I had nice suits and shoes, and I saw, wow, there's a demand for this, women's career wear, because it could be expensive. And I went to Dollar Day at Savers, and I bought 50 items, sold those 50 items. The next time I bought 60, sold those 60.
And just kept reinvesting.
And I kept reinvesting and growing it to the point where I realized that I could actually do this as a full-time income. So I gave myself a time, like, okay, if you can make X amount, then you can do this.
Excellent. Okay. So when did you see that selling online could be your main gig? Was there a moment or an instance or an experience where you said, wait a minute, this is totally doable?
I'll take.
Yep.
I did the day that I got a pink slip from my favorite career job in higher ed, and I was taken off guard, and I said, fine, I'm going to now do eBay full-time. And I stumbled. I had to go back to work full-time 3 different times, and then I finally took the leap 2.5 years ago. So it was by somebody else's choice, not my own, but it's the best thing that I've ever done. And I highly recommend it for anybody that thinks they can.
What about you, Monica? Was there a moment? Was it when you were reinvesting?
Yeah, it was when I was reinvesting, and kind of like Teresa, I did quit my job, but I did feel like I was forced out, and so I didn't have a backup plan, and that part was hard.
Sure.
But yes, when I kept reinvesting it, and I saw how in demand these items were, and how fast they were selling, that's when I knew. And then I checked out a book called eBay Millionaires, and I read all 10 stories. They all had humble starts. And I thought, okay, if they can do it, and supposedly I'm good at sales from my last job, let me try, So.
Perfect. And what about you, Chris? Was there a moment?
Yes, there was a moment for me when I realized that for eBay for me was just selling stuff around the house, and then I realized you can have an actual store. And so right away it felt like an actual store to me. So stocking certain items, thinking about who's going to be buying your things, and then combined shipping I think is great. And I like shopping for other people. I've been in sales my whole life, and I think that's a true transfer of energy from you to the customer. And the store concept really switched me from like hustler to store owner.
Got it. Okay. So what do you think drives your desire to be an entrepreneur? Why not stick with the regularity of a 9-to-5 job?
We like to live on the edge.
Risk takers, willing to take some risk.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have strong willpower and thick skin and be able to overcome when things aren't good. But the reward is worth it, you know, to be able to take time off if my son's sick.
Yep.
Or, you know, we all have our life where things get thrown at us. Maybe a family member gets sick, or you just need time off, and it's priceless to be able to put your family first and not have to call your boss and ask.
Great point. What about you, Teresa?
Yeah, so I kind of forgot
The question was,
Sorry. I was like thinking about her answer.
What do you think drives your desire to be an entrepreneur?
So the fact that, so when I was living in rural Williams, Arizona, and I lived on a 12-acre piece of property, what drove me was the fact that I could go to work in my pajamas every day, all day long. Now that I actually have to drive to an office, I have to actually get dressed. But you know, it's okay. It's not a bad thing. But you know, it's freedom and flexibility, which I felt like I always had in my corporate job. But this kind of freedom and flexibility is totally different, and I love it way more than I ever did in my other one. So having that freedom and flexibility. And with my other job, I was a salaried employee. So if I worked 20 hours a week or I worked 80 hours a week, I got paid the same amount of money. Where here we all know if you want more money, you put more time and energy into it, then you can parlay that time and energy into more dollars, which I love.
Yes.
I think it's deeply satisfying to build something that's your own. It's very different than working for somebody else's dream. I think most of the people in this room would rather work 80 hours for yourself than 40 hours for somebody else. And I just think your legacy is something that is who you touch and beyond yourself. So if you can create your own brand, I think it's totally amazing.
So what do you think are the the attributes of a successful entrepreneur? What are those things that you need? Risk
You
taking,
have to be resilient.
willingness to hustle.
Yes, your willingness to hustle, and you have to be able to keep things moving. That's the number one thing that always sticks in my head, because there's going to be obstacles, trials, tribulations, but if you're one of those people that gives up easily or cannot handle the stress, your ability to reframe and recalibrate is really, really important.
I like that. Reframe and recalibrate.
Recalibrate.
Anything else?
I think
attributes.
I think you have to don't be afraid to fail. Like everybody, any successful business will tell you about all the stories that, all the times that they failed, and you have to just accept those failures, learn from them, move on, and then have some accountability. I find being when I worked for a 9-to-5 and I had a boss I was accountable to, there was a different kind of motivation, and so I have to constantly be aware of being accountable to myself to make sure, because we all work for ourselves. If you don't get it done today, it's all right, I'll do it tomorrow. So setting goals and making yourself accountable to attain those goals.
I mean, I see obligation as the best motivation. When I look around, a lot of entrepreneurs have a lot of debt. They're married and buried, or their back is against the wall, or they're like
married and buried.
They're in a tough situation. So, and then when your back is against the wall, you figure out how to make it work. So I think that
There we go.
If you're comfortable, you probably can't do this.
Yep. Okay, for those, let's get down to like brass tacks. Like for those part-timers that are looking to go full-time, what advice would you offer to them?
I've said you better have your finances straight, just in case.
Have your finances straight.
Yeah, you got to have a savings at least 3 to 6 months in case something happens. Make sure you have all your debt to a minimum in case you do need to use credit cards or a credit line. The worst time to apply for credit is when you need it. I've learned that from my banking, so I always say, make sure your credit is good. And then I've also recommended, if you are still part-time, why don't you take a week off of your job, and then in that week pretend like you're full-time.
Ooh,
And see if
like
that's,
do a little experiment.
Yes, and see what your productivity is. Can you really do this? It's not for everyone, and that's okay, but you have to make sure no one's going to believe. You are going to be the one that has to really believe in yourself. So that's going to give you like a good trial.
Yep. Anyone else? Advice on how to go from part-time to full-time?
I have some advice. Basically, if you, in my opinion, you should focus on trying to get to $100 profit in one category. It's so easy to start a new category, but it's really hard to get good at a category. So the more research you do, the more nuances you're going to notice, the more suppliers, the more in tune you're going to be to your customer in a specific category. But I see too many people with 40 categories, and it's too hard to gain any traction when you spread your attention out that wide.
So are you saying study a category,
Yeah.
get into it, deeply understand it, conquer it, and then move on to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, great, good advice. Okay, so Teresa, I'm going to put you on the spot. You had a very disciplined approach to this. You kind of wrote out a list of things that you needed to do in order to do this. Could you share some of that with us?
Yeah, so like I said before, I failed 3 times. I had to go back to the corporate world and get a job. So and that's okay. You know, sometimes that's the motivation is when you fail. But you know, I tell people, and Monica touched on this, be prepared financially. I was not prepared financially when I got my pink slip the first time. And so I needed to get my ducks in a row, so I went back to work. Social, you know, everybody has the water cooler moments in the office, and we all kind of work in silos. Many of us work by ourselves. So you have to figure out what your social aspect is, know your tribe, reach out to people on Instagram or Facebook, and
Someone's calling Teresa.
and you know, so know your tribe, find your people, and then you know, associate with those people.
And I would say online and offline, right?
Online and offline, yeah.
Teresa runs a meetup group of eBay sellers, so she's face-to-face connected with people, but then she's also got a social media presence that allows her to connect with lots of folks, you know, across the country.
Yeah, and if you go to meetup.com and you type in eBay sellers, you'll find some meetup group in your area, wherever you're at. And then don't be afraid, go to their meetup, reach out to them, and reach out to people that are doing the same thing that you do. The other thing is accountability, and I talked about it a little bit, and some of the things to make yourself accountable is treat it like a job. Like Monica said, take time off, work 40 hours a week, work 80 hours a week, whatever it is that you want to do. Create a schedule. Do all the work, not just the fun part. I come from a financial background. I do bookkeeping and all that stuff. Let me just tell you, the last thing I do with my business is the bookkeeping part. And so this year I've made it a goal to know my numbers and figure it out and really treat it like a business and report to myself every month like I used to have to report to my supervisor. And then find someone to hold you accountable. And for me, that was Chris. Chris has a mastermind group, and we have these calls, and I'm on the calls, and he helps me be accountable. He's not my boss, but he asks me the questions, and I'm like, oh, that call's going to be on Monday. I better work 12 hours on Sunday so I can get stuff done and report to Chris on tomorrow morning. And growth, be prepared to grow, and then be prepared to be successful as well as to fail. So, it's not all about failing, but be ready and be prepared to be successful and to have that dream and visualize it, and it will happen.
So what goals did you set for yourself? Did you guys sit down and say, okay, I'm going to make a full-time gig out of this, and therefore, in a month I want to have this goal accomplished, in 2 months I want to have this goal accomplished? Can you talk through those? First of all, did you set those goals, and what were they?
I want a self-operating eBay store where there's buyers, listers, and shippers. I like the idea of owning something that makes money without me being there. I want to truly, and I think that I love being at eBay, I call it eBay freelancing, where you find the best items you can and sell them for as much as you can. But part of me wants like an eBay machine. So that's what I'm trying to build. And I've had that dream since the beginning. So I like that idea.
So let me understand this. You're hiring somebody for shipping.
Yep.
You're hiring somebody for listing.
Yep.
Are you doing the sourcing?
Yes, and this is the first time ever that in my store, the person that's running my store right now is buying, listing, and selling while I'm here.
And then you pay him an hourly rate?
I pay him an hourly rate plus commission.
Okay.
So it's exciting.
There we go. What about goals? Did you set any goals for yourself?
Not in the beginning. In the beginning, I was more just interested in an upward trend. And then once I got consistency, I started setting not only monetary goals, but sourcing goals. Okay, I'm going to get into liquidations now because I was primarily thrifting. I'm going to get some wholesale accounts now. I have been off and on with the photographer, but I mainly do everything myself. So, and that's one of the things I've been saying for years. I need to get somebody to help me, but I keep changing what I want to do. So honestly, I need to set better goals.
Better goals.
But the one big thing that has helped my business is having better sourcing opportunities. So if you're only doing one way of sourcing to get to the next thing, like if you're only doing wholesale, like what about liquidations, and can you do it online? Best case scenario is that you got inventory coming to you.
Yes.
Because then that eliminates you having to go out and go to different stores. So that's my main goal by the end of this year, is to have everything coming to me.
Got it. Now, what about like listing goals? Like I want 1,500 listings by 3 months from now. Did anybody do that?
I did that when I first got laid off. I had about 500 items in my store, and I had a lot of stuff laying around the house, and I just started listing. And I used to have that information, but I have close to 4,000 listings now, and it's just time and energy. And 4,000 listings sounds great until you realize that's 4,000 things that aren't selling. But I'm trying to build up that momentum. And I'm a believer in, I have an anchor store, so I'm a believer in, I'm paying for the listings, so I'll leave them up longer.
Yep.
And I do have stuff where people, I sell to people that want to buy memories. And so you have to wait for the person that's looking for the Hidden Valley Ranch plastic container that I just sold last week for $35 because somebody's grandma must have had it when they were growing up, I don't know.
Like a vintage bottle?
Yeah, it was plastic. It came free with the Hidden Valley Ranch dressing when I moved out probably 30 years ago. So there you go. So I love selling. I call those memories. I have no idea what the person was using it for, but
if it exists, you can find it on eBay.
There you go.
That's for sure.
Now, what about timing? How long did this take you from, like, if I may ask, from the time, Teresa, that you got the pink slip, failed a couple of times, and now you're fully on board, 100% selling on eBay?
June 11th, 2012, I got the pink slip. And then I left my job in October of 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about
I got the second layoff.
So you've been
15.
doing about 3 years full time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Chris?
It took me 9 months to have the amount I list catch up to the amount I sell. Because in the beginning you list more than you sell.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
And so
okay.
your store
So
keeps
constant turnover. Is what you're saying.
It took 9 months before the capacity is equal to the sales now.
Got it.
That's the model you want.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And how about you, Monica? How long?
It took me about a year, only because I wasn't 100% sure that that's what I wanted to do, have the eBay store, because I'd been in my corporate life so long, so I was kind of thinking of going back.
Sure.
So yeah, I would say and during that full year, the momentum I had by the end of it made it clear that I could, just do this full time. But it did involve having listing goals and having X dollar amount coming in every single month. So.
Okay, great. So this is our last question. What about networking? You mentioned it earlier, Teresa, about connecting with other sellers online and offline. What are some of the valuable tips that you learned from networking with other sellers?
Well, you just meet people, you learn different ideas, you have, everybody has a different way of doing things, and one of the things that I love about eBay is that eBay doesn't force us all to have the same shipping process, the same return process, and so what works for me may not work for you, but what works for me may work for you. It's like, and so I love that networking and learning how everybody runs their business different, but we all have a lot of overlap and similarity.
Yes, for
so
sure.
I love talking to sellers. I love new sellers. If you're a newbie, come find me. I will help you out. I love newbies. So networking is good.
Yes, and so I think the takeaway from that is test and learn, right?
Yes, absolutely.
What doesn't work for your business, what does work for your business may not work for another, and each individual seller needs to figure out what works for their business.
Yeah.
Anything else? We have to wrap it up pretty quick, but anything about
Just
networking?
on that with the networking, I was full-time on eBay for years before I ever met another eBay seller because I had zero social media, zero
It can be lonely.
eBay friends. So I was 100% auction. So when I finally started meeting people, I was like, wow, people do buy it nows? That's so odd. and you know, just finding all the different ways to do things. And then finding friends in real life. Like Chris is not far from me. She used to be my neighbor. I should have known. I should.
We literally lived a mile away
Yeah,
from
these
each
two
other.
just figured out that they lived a mile apart from each other.
So just the support you get from people, it's there when you need it.
Yep. Any final words, Chris?
Just share your journey. Sharing my journey on YouTube brought me 25,000 subscribers, and last year I received 43,000 questions about eBay.
Wow.
So it's insane.
That's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for being here. Great advice. We got to wrap it up. I need to say a few programming notes real quick. Be sure to catch 1 o'clock today. Pop over to our YouTube channel if you're watching right now. We are going to have the CEO, Devin Wennick, will be talking about the future of e-commerce. Pardon me, and where eBay is headed in 2018 and beyond. Our next Facebook Live will be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We'll be talking to 3 sellers about their entrepreneurial spirit, how to cultivate it and fuel it, and what it takes to be a small business owner, how to maintain success over the long haul. Thanks again for watching. And for those of you at home, be sure to check out all the action on social media. Be sure to follow hashtag eBayOpen2018. And for those of you in the room that are using social media, be sure to use the official hashtag. Again, that's eBayOpen2018. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.